Hi, soul family. Okay, so I feel inspired to share more about ways we can reinforce the reality we desire, right? To see in the 3D realm. So, especially as I've been talking these last couple days about choosing the I am awareness self, right? So, let's talk more about how it is an algorithm, right? All of reality is an algorithm. And so I mentioned that in one of my videos recently. And I think that just really simplifies everything. Everything about quantum physics, metaphysical reality is in our creative power is if we can just remember that it is an algorithm. Like social media does a perfect example of this, right? Where whatever we like, whatever we watch, we get shown more of, right? So they figured out the code essentially for how reality works, and they've put it on their platforms, and they're able to mimic exactly how the universe works. I think that's really fascinating. So it's just such a real life reminder every day in our face about the power we as creators have, right? So I've been embodying wealth I've been really on that journey of embodying wealth since like February, okay? And I'm trying to think of just milestones I've made. And I guess maybe the first milestone has just been my old mindset was so money focused and affording focused, like coming from lack or always making sure I have enough, like trying to put effort into having more than enough or having enough, right? Versus just accepting and knowing always that no, I always have more than enough. No effort required. No trying to have enough, right? Required, right? I don't have to keep a heavy eye on things. I don't have to refrain from enjoying myself or indulging, right? And so while embodying this, so this is just, I would say it's a phase. I'm kind of out of that phase now, but in order to help me get into the reality of, no, I am wealthy, I can afford that, I would splurge on things I normally wouldn't allow myself to, my old self wouldn't, right? And the first thing I did, of course, is I don't ever say I can't afford that, or that's too much, or that's expensive. I think the first thing that changed when embodying wealth was really understanding that everything is just numbers and losing all meaning for things, right? And so allowing myself to indulge in experiences, even if, and instead of fearing not having enough money, trusting that I am connected to an endless supply and I know I can afford this. So even if my appearances might say I can't afford that, I would indulge and then know that more money was coming, okay? The perfect example of this is when before I had to choose a living situation, right? I was recently like reset myself and I was initially looking for roommates. And I realized I did that because I had come from a position where I was living with roommates, right? It just seemed easy. I was stuck in that mind frame and that vibration of I have to do this to save money. I have to do this to make the most of what I have, right? Thinking in terms of cost effectiveness rather than thinking in terms of I am wealth, anything's possible, and with the same standards I live with is what I will be met with by the universe, right? So there was a time, while I was embodying wealth, I had to realize, you know what is my highest self saying? My highest self is saying that I could feel that I was settling and I was shrinking myself by thinking that I was limited to a roommate situation, right? So in order to honor the I amness in me, the wealthy part of me, I said, I really feel now, I feel excited to have an apartment. Okay, I'm not gonna live with roommates anymore. So before I even had an apartment set in sight, before I even had money for an apartment in my physical reality, but when I just felt that desire and that excitement for the apartment and realized that was what my wealthy self, that would be honoring my wealthy self, I spoke to someone I was coordinating with, a future roommate, and said, you know what, I changed my mind. I'm going to live in an apartment. Thanks. So that was it. I went all in before any physical evidence was in my reality, right? I went all in on my choice to have enough money for the apartment, to enjoy my time, to enjoy my life, and to have a new standard. So I believed in that standard. I believed it was possible, and I embodied the reality before it was ever physical. A couple weeks later, I got a job that paid really well. It came so easily, and then the apartment came super easily as well because I had all the documentation in place. So that's another sign. What I found is when we embody this first, when we reinforce within with our feelings and thoughts, and then act on our highest self in faith, even if the physical evidence is not there yet, I have found that that's when the ease comes. The universe will just deliver, right? Because we're acting in our truest alignment, okay? So I think that's a really big testimony to the power we have as creators, right? And so I've been continuing to embody this wealth, continue to embody this state of being, even as circumstances around me change, right? And so we're always being given opportunities to reinforce our vibration, our dominant vibration to the universe, right? So that was a perfect example. So I just wanted to ask you, what are you doing to reinforce your dominant vibration to the universe? If it's not money, if it could be being in a loving relationship, what are you doing to reinforce that vibration within yourself? It could be even as simple as thinking out loud, like thinking that you have a partner who is so considerate and so kind, and feeling those feelings and just imagining yourself in a relationship daily, and being happy for it, and then going about your day. And then instead of so if you see things online or you see things in person where you say, oh, I wish or I want that, that's an indicator that you're not aligned with your highest self, right? And you're sending out signals to the universe that, oh, you wish, okay, so you don't have that. Okay, so let me send you more of that because you don't have it. So it's reinforcing